When people think about the Middle Ages, they usually imagine castles, knights, kings, queens, giant feasts, and dramatic sword fights. Sounds cool, right? Well, only if you were watching from very far away. Because if you were an average person, life was not a fantasy adventure. It was more like waking up cold, hungry, dirty, overworked, scared of disease, surrounded by animals, paying taxes to people richer than you, and hoping your toothache didn't become the thing that ended your entire story. And the worst part? The plague wasn't even the beginning of the nightmare. The plague was just the final boss. The daily life before that was already brutal. So today, let's talk about why life in the Middle Ages actually sucked, and not in a cute historical way. In a please let me respawn in another century kind of way. First problem, waking up. Today, you wake up annoyed because your alarm went off. In the Middle Ages, you woke up because you were freezing, because smoke was filling the room, because a rooster was screaming like it had seen a demon, or because a goat was breathing directly into your soul. For most common people, houses were simple, cramped, dark, and uncomfortable. No private bedroom, no clean bathroom, no heating system, no cozy morning routine. Just a small living space, a hard place to sleep, maybe straw on the floor, and a smell that modern humans are not emotionally prepared for. And privacy? Almost none. Your whole family was there. Sometimes animals were nearby too. So if you wanted a peaceful moment alone, congratulations. Your best option was probably standing outside in the cold and pretending you were checking the weather. Now let's talk about breakfast. Forget pancakes, coffee, cereal, bacon, orange juice, or anything that looks like a normal meal. If you were a poor person, breakfast was usually simple. Very simple. Bread, porridge, grains, onions, cabbage, beans, maybe some cheese if life was feeling generous. And one of the most common meals was pottage, which sounds fancy until you realize it basically means throw whatever sad ingredients you have into a pot and hope your mouth accepts it. One day, cabbage. Next day, more cabbage. After that, cabbage, but emotionally different. Meat was not something most common people ate every day. Those movie scenes where everyone is casually biting into giant roasted chicken legs? Yeah, that was not the average Tuesday morning. For many people, food was about survival, not pleasure. And if the harvest was bad, even the sad cabbage soup started looking luxurious. After your depressing breakfast, it was time to work. And by work, I don't mean 8 hours, lunch break, and then going home to scroll on your phone. I mean physical labor. A lot of it. If you were a peasant, your life was tied to land, seasons, weather, animals, and obligations. You worked fields, you repaired tools, you carried water, you gathered wood, you took care of animals. You planted, harvested, cleaned, cooked, built, fixed, and repeated everything until your body basically became a medieval machine powered by bread and sadness. And here's the fun part. You didn't just work for yourself. Depending on where and when you lived, you might owe labor, rent, crops, or payments to a lord. So you could work extremely hard and still watch part of your effort go to someone whose main job was owning better clothes than you. Imagine farming all day, finally collecting your grain, and then a man in a fancy cape shows up like, "Nice harvest. Be a shame if part of it belonged to me." And it did. Today, bad weather means your picnic is ruined. In the Middle Ages, bad weather could ruin your life. Agriculture depended heavily on the seasons. Too much rain could damage crops. Too little rain could destroy them. A long winter could mean hunger. A bad harvest could mean prices went up, food disappeared, and people started making very uncomfortable decisions. There was no supermarket, no emergency delivery, no frozen pizza. No, let's just order something. If the crops failed, you didn't complain online. You just looked at your empty food storage and started bargaining with God. And when food became scarce, everyone suffered. The poor suffered first, the rich complained later. That was basically the economic system. Now we have to talk about hygiene, and I'm sorry in advance. Medieval towns could be full of life. Markets, craftsmen, traders, animals, music, shouting, food, and movement. But they could also be unbelievably disgusting. There were animals in the streets, mud everywhere, waste, bad smells, blood from butchers, rotting food, dirty water, and suspicious puddles that nobody wanted to investigate. Imagine walking to buy bread and having to dodge mud, animal poop, human waste, pigs, carts, and someone emptying a bucket from an upstairs window. Every street was an obstacle course. Except instead of coins and power-ups, the obstacles were disease and emotional damage. And if you got sick, good luck. Medieval medicine was not completely useless. People had herbs, healers, monasteries, hospitals, and medical traditions. But they did not understand germs the way we do today. That is a pretty big problem when your world is full of dirt, animals, poor sanitation, infected wounds, bad food, and people coughing directly into your timeline. A small cut could become infected. A tooth problem could become serious. A fever could be terrifying. Childbirth was dangerous. Surgery was a nightmare. Now imagine having a toothache. Today, you go to a dentist, get anesthesia, and complain about the bill. In the Middle Ages, your options were much worse. Tooth decay, infections, gum disease, pain, all of it could become serious. And dental care was not exactly gentle. Sometimes the solution was simple. Pull it out. No calming music. No comfortable chair. No, you might feel a little pressure. Religion was at the center of life. The church shaped the calendar, the community, moral rules, festivals, fears, hope, and the way people understood the world. When something terrible happened, people often looked for spiritual meaning. A storm, a disease, a failed harvest, a sudden death. Today, we might blame bacteria, climate, economics, or bad luck. Back then, many people wondered if it was punishment, a warning, or a sign from God. So you weren't just worried about food, work, disease, and taxes. You were also worried about your eternal soul. So that was why life in the Middle Ages actually sucked. Not just because of the plague, but because every normal day was already a survival challenge. If you want more weird, dark, and uncomfortable history explained with stupid little stick figures, subscribe.